Welcome back, everybody. We hope you had some really interesting discussions there in your breakout groups and have had a chance to think a little bit more about the importance of bringing people together to think about our ageing populations. So I'm now going to hand over to the head of localities at the Centre for Ageing Better, Natalie Turner. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. So this is the section where we get to tell you a little bit about what an age-friendly community is and where the concept came from, and a little bit about the global and UK networks of age-friendly communities. And to start with, we have another little video for you.
The place where we live can have a huge impact on our health and well-being. Age-friendly communities make it possible for us to continue to live in our homes, participate in the activities that we value, and contribute to our communities for as long as possible. In an age-friendly community, older residents are able to shape the place where they live, where local groups, councils, businesses and residents work together to identify and make changes in both the physical and social environments, such as volunteering, employment, transport, housing and the design of streets and neighbourhoods. Developed by the World Health Organization, the Age-Friendly Communities Framework is built on the evidence of what supports healthy and active ageing in a place. Becoming an age-friendly community requires political commitment. It means listening to the voices of older people and working in partnership to deliver on an action plan. A growing number of towns, districts, cities, counties and city regions across the UK are working to ensure that more people can live healthy and active later lives. Together, these places make up the UK network of age-friendly communities. Through its affiliation to the WHO, the network is linked to over 1,000 other cities and communities in more than 40 countries. We want more communities to join the UK network and help create places where more people can enjoy their later lives. Let's take action today for all our tomorrows. Let's make ageing better.
Great, thanks. I hope you enjoyed that. So this is the definition that we use for an age-friendly community. It's a place where people of all ages are able to live healthy and active later lives, and where it's possible for people to continue to stay living in their homes, to participate in and also contribute to their communities for as long as possible. And it's the WHO framework which acts as a guide for communities to achieve this goal. What's key about this definition that we use, and it's adapted from the WHO definition, is that it's about aging. It's not only about being old. And that's really important because actually an age-friendly community should promote both the behaviours that help us stay healthy and active for longer, but it also should reduce the barriers to our staying involved and contributing if and or when our abilities decline. So as I mentioned, this concept was of age-friendly communities developed by the World Health Organization, and that's the framework that we follow and from which we've adapted this definition. It's built also on a substantial amount of research and policy development over several decades, and also with the engagement and input of older people and stakeholders across the world. So let me give you a little bit more about that. So this is where age-friendly communities come from. And I think it's always useful just to give people a bit of a history so that people understand kind of, where we're coming from, where we've got to. The WHO's framework, it's kind of grounded in the concepts that many of you will be familiar with, such as aging in place, livable communities, universal design. And what's common in all of those is that they highlight the importance of our environment, or where we live, as to how we function, our health, and in turn, how we age. It's how we interact with the environment can actually have an enabling or disabling experience to how well we age. But this timeline is really to kind of point to some key milestone in WHO and other journey, which has kind of helped the thinking get to where we are today and what we're going to go on to talk about. So in 2002, this is the kind of, we see this as kind of a first step, but you might look at it going back longer than that. In 2002, a policy framework was developed by WHO. And what was particularly interesting about that was that it put participation, not just in work, but in all spheres of life, as being key to a good later life. And that essentially all policies should support people's participation as we age and at all ages. It had a life course approach as well. So those are some of the concepts you'll see also coming through. In 2007, WHO kind of brought in another of the major global megatrends, urbanization, alongside that of an aging population and the active aging that I talked about. With more people than ever before living in cities and urban areas, it was essentially said, what kinds of policies and features need to be in place and what kind of barriers need removing for people to be able to continue to live and participate as they age, particularly in cities. So that was the WHO, that was the year that WHO launched the Global Age-Friendly Cities Guide, which was based on focus groups in 33 cities across the world with older people and stakeholders. This guide and checklist is actually still a really essential tool to us. It hasn't changed significantly over time. It's still the same things that matter to us and that we need to have in place. But it's probably the most foundational document that Age-Friendly Communities is based on. That also led in 2010 to the launch of the Global Network of Age-Friendly Cities and Communities. And that was to support people to kind of take these policies and ideas and support them to take action where they live. UK cities like Manchester and Newcastle were in at the start of the global network. And it was this point that countries like Canada and Ireland, who were real pioneers in this movement, and clearly were much more rural than other areas, that the name was expanded to include communities. And we now use the term communities to cover a range of different size and types of places, from rural counties to major city conurbations. And in the US, for example, you also have age-friendly states. Leading on to 2016, WHO launched an Aging and Health Strategy and Action Plan, the first of its kind, and that made the creation of more age-friendly communities a core action area for national plans on aging. In 2018, WHO Europe published several guides actually around age-friendly environments, and it's these guides that we've used to develop the training today, but also we have a sequence of other training based around those guides. And finally, and this is the decade that we are in, the UN Decade of Healthy Aging, which was launched only last year. Age-friendly communities sits under one of 4 action areas globally, and the UN, UN General Assembly, which signed up to that, made the UK also one of its signatories. And that kind of gives a mandate for countries across the world to develop programs around age-friendly communities. So I know that's a lot of detail, and you might want to come back to that. And this isn't supposed to overwhelm you with reading for the weekend, though we will be sending out links. But I suppose it's to say, that there is a wide or a strong foundation of evidence, research, guides, and resources that you can have, and other places that you can connect with across the world around age-friendly communities. Next slide, please. Talking about lots and lots of other communities. WHO has its own website. It's the Global Network of Age-Friendly Cities and Communities. There are well over, and this is a snapshot of 2020 of over 1,000 cities, over 44 countries, and 262 plus millions. I think 2020 that was made. I know that there are even 1,000 more than that just in Canada alone. So there are many other places across this world. There are also 17 national networks that are affiliated to this global network, and it's the UK network is affiliated to the WHO. So when we talk about becoming an age-friendly community or signing up to become an age-friendly community, we're essentially talking, to get that recognition, we're talking about becoming part of one of these networks as the UK and global network, and using the WHO framework to make progress. So this might be smaller, but we still have 54 age-friendly communities and growing already in the UK. And that went from about 14 only 3 years ago. So we really believe that, and we have a huge ambition to grow this network. We think it already has the potential to have an impact on the lives of 23.5 million people. That's nearly a third of the UK population live in places that have already signed up, over 7 million of which are age 50 and over. So I'm hoping you're all kind of quickly looking through for the pink dots and whether you're on the map or you have a neighbour on the map. And we're hoping you're going to add more after this training. And those dots represent, just to reassure you, if you're from different kinds of places, these represent rural places, cities, city regions, counties, districts, and towns. So a real range of places. So that's a little bit of a brief introduction. I saw someone sort of say, yeah, there are some gaps. We're aware there are some gaps. Interestingly, Wales looks like there is a gap, but it's actually developed a national strategy on age-friendly communities and looking to sign up all of its boroughs, 22 boroughs and cities over the next few years, and has already done a lot of work on this. Scotland, if anyone here is from Scotland, we'd love to get you on board as well. Could do more up there. I better hand over to Charlotte, or I can talk about this all day.